Chef Lorious. We are in the Love Lab. Today I'm going to show you how to sear the perfect steak. Let's cook. So when it comes to searing steaks, everybody wants to sear a good steak, and you go to a restaurant and it's amazing, but you know you can do it at home, right? So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm a normal person, so I'm not going to show you some crazy way that you don't know what I'm talking about. First things first, guys, get a good ribeye. This is a ribeye, and I love ribeyes because of the marbling. Now some people say, oh, it's too much fat. You don't need that negativity in your life, okay? You just push that aside. This fat is called flavor, okay? So trust me, you want that. Now what we're gonna do, use a little bit of olive oil in here. There's not a lot of ingredients when it comes to searing a good steak because you don't need a lot of ingredients if you're dealing with a good steak. All you need is salt, okay? And you want to salt it generously. Some people say, oh, it's too much salt. Do you see how thick this piece of meat is? This salt has to go all the way through that, okay? And the salt is what actually helps you get the nice crust that you want, okay? So you got salt on there, some fresh cracked pepper. Always use fresh cracked pepper, but if you can't, I won't judge, okay? And then we're gonna put a little smidge of garlic powder on there. And I'm using garlic powder instead of salt, garlic salt, because I've used regular salt. I'm gonna pat those seasonings in real good, give her a flip. Make sure she's dry. That's another thing, guys. Make sure it's dry when you're gonna sear because you don't need all that extra liquid, okay? Here we go. Again, salt it generously. Don't worry, some of the seasoning's gonna come off in the pan as it cooks anyway, so you're really okay. Just a second, I'm multitasking, y'all. Oh, one little spot here. Okay, there we go. Now, fresh ground pepper. And a little bit of garlic powder. And that is honestly all you need to sear a good steak, guys. Okay, push that in and we are ready to start. Now you want to make sure that your oil is hot. When you put that steak in there, it should sizzle. Okay, that's very important that it sizzles. So you want to make sure you give it a second to get nice and warm. It should be on medium-high heat because you want to get a good crust on there. And you know how you can test it? I have the rosemary here that we're going to use to baste this with. I'm just going to take a little sprig of this rosemary and put it in and see what it does. Okay, see that? It started sizzling up. So now my oil is just about ready. Little things like that, little things. You can put a drop of water in there. You can put a little piece of salt in there. You can put a sprig of rosemary in there. There's all kinds of little wet things you can do to make sure your oil is hot enough. But you want to make sure it's nice and hot when you're about to sear so that you can get that good crisp action. You really want to hear that sizzle when it hits it, okay? I'm going to spread this out with tongs because no one's trying to have a major kitchen injury. Here's another way you can test it. Put it down. Just like that. And the most important key to searing. Okay, well, one important key, turn your fan on and know that your smoke alarm may go off. But the important key to searing, leave it alone. Say it with me, family. Leave it alone. Don't touch it, okay? If you touch it and you play with it and move it around, it's not gonna get that crusty, good crust you want. It's just not gonna happen. Okay, and then you're gonna write me letters and tell me I messed you up, but I didn't. I'm telling you, don't touch it, okay? Now we're gonna cook this one completely on the stove top, which is one of my favorite ways to do it. But you can also just sear and finish in the oven, or you can cook in the oven and reverse sear. I like to do it on the stove top though, because I feel like I'm in a more controlled situation. But you know, to each his own. All right, now look at this, we're gonna let this sit here. It can take about 5 or 6 minutes on this side, okay? Because you wanna give it time to really get in there, let those flavors come together, and you can even start to see around the edge where the edge is forming. I don't know if you can see that, but it's starting to really get a nice crust around the edge. You wanna let that continue happening until you've got a good crust form, and then we'll flip it. And once we flip it, we'll start to turn the heat down a little bit. Use our meat thermometer, and that's when we'll let it cook to the desired temperature. Now when it comes to cooking your steak and what temperature you want to cook it to, I always cook mine to medium. We just like a nice medium steak around here. Everybody's different. If you want it well done, please eat chicken. But I'm not gonna hate even if you want it well done, okay? Do you, boo, okay? But the key is to have in mind what temperature you wanna cook it at, and we're gonna use a meat thermometer. Once we go ahead and flip this over, we're gonna stick the thermometer in it so we can start to monitor and look at what the temperature of the steak is until it gets where we want it to get, and then we'll know it's right. Then we let it rest, and we keep it going. All right, let's see here. One way we can test to see if it's ready to turn is to give it what I call the nudge test. You see how I'm nudging? When you nudge just a little bit, if your steak is moving with you in that nudge, it's probably ready to turn. All right? So let me see here. Look at that. Told you, fam. Perfect. I'm gonna turn the heat down just a little bit. You see how beautiful that came out? By not touching it, and give it the nudge test. If you nudge it and you get resistance or it doesn't move, don't force it. Now if you push it hard, it's gonna move, okay? Just nudge it. And if it doesn't move with you, there's not enough crust. When that crust gets firmly on there, it'll just ease with you, feel me? All right, now turn this down a little bit. We're gonna start basting this steak as well. Now I'm gonna use a whole stick of butter. Yes, that's a lot of butter because we're basting steak, okay? I'm going to put it in here, let it start melting. Okay, we're going to also add some garlic cloves and a little bit of rosemary. Okay, just like that. And that's going to give the butter some amazing flavor. And we're going to baste our steak with this. And I'm going to take this meat thermometer and I'm going to stick it into the thickest part of the steak, like so. Let me stick it on the side. Hold on. I like to cook my steaks to medium, which is about 145 degrees internal temperature. So once I put this in there, look at that. And just baste this steak with those butter, just like that. See that? The garlic and the rosemary are flavoring this butter. And this is why you're going to turn the temperature down at this point. It's because this is my target temperature of 140 degrees. And this is the temperature of the steak. Okay? And this is where you determine how done you want your steak to be. So I want to get my steak to about 140 degrees or so, because that's medium. And when I take it out, I'm going to let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. And sometimes it will continue cooking while it's resting. We cover with a little foil. So you take it off about 5 degrees less than what you actually want it to finish at, okay? And while it's in here, just keep basting. You see how beautiful that is? Ladies and gentlemen, as they say, that's a steak. And our steak is at the temperature we want it. So what we're going to do is turn the heat off completely. Going to get a nice board here to rest the steak on. Okay. And ever so gently, with just the right touch of love, we're going to take our steak and set it right there. All right, the heat is off. You want to keep this butter, but take it off the heat. And we're going to let this steak rest. Look how pretty she is. I'm sorry, there's a heat. Look how pretty he is. I'm going to cover it with foil, just a little bit. I'm not going overboard, just to kind of let it finish, doing what it does. Give it a few minutes in there. You want your steak to rest 5 to 7 minutes at minimum. 10 is really good. And that's just so that all those juices and everything in there can come back together and be happy with one another. Okay? Let that happen. And also, make sure before you start it that your steak is at room temperature. Because if the steak is cold, it's not gonna cook right. It's not gonna sear right, and you're gonna be disappointed because you spent a bunch of money on a good cut of steak and it didn't happen for you. Okay? All right, fam, so we're getting ready to cut into this bad boy and let's see what it does. Are you as excited as I am, fam? I hope so. I hope so. Okay. Take our thermometer out. Make sure you can see everything. All right, you ready? Look at that. Perfectly medium. See how beautiful that is, fam? That's how you cook a steak. Ooh, that looks good. And as always, the pieces on the end are going to be a little less done than the pieces in the middle, okay? So if you have people who want it cooked a little bit more, you give them the end pieces, and people who want it a little more rare, give them the inside pieces. And if you cook it and you cut it and you say, oh, no, I don't want it that red, you know what you do? You ready? Put it back in the skillet. That's it. Put it back in the skillet. Now, since I'm here and the steak is here, I feel compelled to taste a piece. Wow. That's everything. Fam, you gotta do this. You can do this yourself at home, in your kitchen, and serve it with the butter on it and all that. All right. Oh, this is good. I'm finna tear this thing up. I'm so serious. Fam, thank you for joining me. Can't wait to see you. The full recipe will be on my website, cheflorious.com. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Happy cooking.